hello again. Thank you for opening this newsletter and even clicking on this video. Today I would like to venture further in this project of the Master Course 2017 and why I think it is a unique opportunity for you at this point in time. Have you ever wondered lately, what's happening in my life? It's almost like a loop that I'm turning in circles. I have an inkling, something wants to emerge, somewhere I want to get, but I don't know what it is. And there's a shifting between anticipation and excitement, and at the same time, almost depression and anger about this recurring loop that is dominating my life. Now, all of us are coming from a sort of a vantage point or an attitude that I am here to change myself. I'm probably here to serve in a certain way. I'm a seeker. I'm a follower. I am on a path of evolution. And suddenly, very deep down, you understand that this is no longer the same attitude. There's something else. There's really something in me that wants to emerge, that wants to express itself. And I no longer resonate with this old self-understanding of being on a road to some kind of a goal. Now, let me first of all explain a little bit about my work and who I am. For those who have never worked with me, who don't know who I am, it is my spiritual gift to assist individuals to really not only connect to their inner divinity and to the source within, but really sensually, tangibly embody this. So that this is not just a knowing in their mind, but an experience of real proportions, of real presence in their life. In my work, I was asked about 2-3 years back to shift my approach with my clientele also, and to really shift them across a certain threshold. I was asked to really stop healing, repairing, helping in small little details in people's lives, in their life situation, whatever the issue would be. This is where I was coming from, and to challenge them that this level of just simply living a private, small, little third-dimensional life and be ready to move into a new life form, literally. So this was actually, I lost about 70 to 80% of my clientele, and that was fine because what I was left with was a real tribe of individuals who wanted to, desire to venture out into something completely new. And my entire work style changed here, which is also going to be in the same way in this 9-month program. And that is that there's not one person who has all the answers, who knows all those alleys and pathways, but that there is a space that is being created in whatever work, whether it is individual or in a group, that is of a different caliber, that is a totally different energetic structure, spiritual context. And it opened up the gaze to an understanding, or a perception rather, of the magic and the mystery of life. So in the real and literal sense, I got an order. I got charged with a project that I was to develop from scratch. And they just gave me the components of what was necessary and essential to pass on. So the first thing was just an insight or an overview of what the planetary situation was at that moment in the middle of 2015. At that time already, they said humanity is stuck, absolutely stuck. But not only the general collective of sleeping individuals, if you will, but especially those light workers who had designed their life for a particular purpose, that is, building the new earth and being the standards of a new earth. So they were showing me let's say the excuses or the hovering around the issues in individuals, both in those clients with whom I was working, but also in those communities in which I was moving and all those that I met on the road. It was almost becoming clear, like an X-ray for me, because they wanted to show me what it actually was. That every time we would venture out into some new arena, into what they would call the real purpose, we would shrink again, we would defend ourselves, we would tell ourselves that we are already so developed and we have so much of access already into, let's say, the other dimensions or to higher accesses within ourselves. Whatever the matter is, they said it's just mental. It is nothing to do with the real actual approach that is needed now. And what they showed me, that the potential was in place, both in those individuals and in what they call the new energy. But everything was in a waiting mode, not getting anywhere. And what happens if potential or momentum is given and it's not being channeled, it's not being funneled, it's not being used? It creates stagnation, it creates density, literally something that may have you feel stuck. And isn't that part of your observation in your life recently, that I want to move forward, I don't know where to go, and I feel I'm somehow pulled back every time into the old status quo of my life, or maybe into the old condition of the world. There's some glue there's some gravity that pulls on me. But actually, what was becoming evident is that we are not really prepared for this transition. Yes, we have written those contracts, we have designed this life purpose or the calling for this lifetime. But there is a stretch between the old life form of our third dimensional identification, if you will, the story that we attach to ourselves, and that other level that seems far away and that seems somehow foggy or vague, and there's a missing link. For whatever reason this is here, but it is always in our journey as humanity, there's always been these thresholds, and there always have to be pioneers, if you will, that cross that threshold, that break this record, and that create the new spaces, and that really venture out into something that has not been there before. And this is what these councils were showing me, that there are indeed individuals that have this inkling, that have that resonance within themselves, not only to feel the divine and to be in a happy, balanced situation in their life and maybe have liberation, things like that, feel blissful. No, that there is still another level of existence that we haven't even ventured in, that we may have access to this in our dream state, sometimes in an inner encounter, but there's a missing interface that needs to be formed now, that needs to be passed on. This interface is actually the series of Genesis, about which I will again, take out time to explain. This is an interdimensional matrix that was given to me over the span of almost, I would say, probably 16, 17 years. And it was evolving, it was settling, it was being furnished, it was really from a vague idea or a vague image that I had in the very beginning. It was getting more and more detailed, more and more almost structured, because any matrix has an architecture, has a design, and where all the building blocks were furnished and were given, until eventually in November 2015 it was actually grounded here in this dimension. And there was a huge activation, among which this master course also emerged. It is almost like a prerequisite to launch into a fifth dimensional life in a real, literal, embodied sense. We have all, not only an idea, we have a feeling about what this is, because we always morph between those different timelines and states of conditions and accesses within ourselves. But it is not constant, it is not a state of being. And for exactly this missing link between the third and the fifth dimension, this matrix was created, what is given, because it can never be a linear modality or some kind of a how-to-do list, because all of this would be mental, would be third dimensional, and would be linear. So it has to be a multidimensional workspace, so to speak, that gives us access, that gives us pathways into our own multidimensionality. So in that sense, a master course is named like that because it concerns your own mastery. And there are many masters who work together, who co-create this, who hold you in teaching, but it is not about their teaching, it's about helping you to birth your own mastery. Much more than that, it's more like to birth your own calling, your own purpose, your own unique work field that up to now seem to be quite foggy, and you want to compare it with how other people do it, or to see whether anyone would reconfirm you with this. But we are at a point where we don't need permission slips anymore. We don't need any guidance. We don't need any answers, because you are the answer. You are the guidance. And that's, in itself, it's a process that, if it emerges, it's nothing that you understand in your mind. Sometimes it is, yes, it is connected to your heart, but it's much deeper than that. It is where your soul fabric really merges with this kind of limited life form. And then there is this expansion, but then to venture out into the new earth with all those new components and building blocks and substances and materials that we have not touched, not felt, and not experienced so far. So it is bridging those life forms, you would say. It's not only dimensions, because we're dealing with organic processes, organic work. And that is why it is so difficult for me to speak about it. It really somehow helps us to venture into the mystery of life. So there is a lot of talk about fifth dimensional living or the next life form or a lifestyle that is with more completion in a different dimension. Whatever the terminology here, I am sure there are quite a few number of individuals who are really venturing out into these lifestyles, into these different conditions within themselves. If I listen to the spiritual councils, they still have a different perspective here. They say, in some sense, it is really a pity that you keep on telling yourselves stories about the imagination of what this would be, because there is, of course, this inkling, there is even a memory of what you have placed there for yourselves, but you are stuck, fundamentally stuck, in a mental perspective. So for this transition, it takes much more than the anticipation of something that you desire, that you feel is somehow coming online, but you need to have all those components in place in order to really venture out. And it is not an intellectual game. Let me just give you an example. Simple example of a space cadet. Those astronauts who went out, especially in the beginning, we got to understand in the 60s how they would have to be trained for months, for a long, long time, to learn how to navigate in weightlessness, how to deal with the absence of gravity, how to sort of train their physical vehicles for the situation. It's not just that I understand if I move like this, this is the effect, but your entire system had to be retrained or entrained for being in a situation of a space capsule traveling through space. So just to imagine I want to go and fly to the moon, or I would like to be a space cadet, is not enough. We have to go through this training and not only understand the protocols and the laws, but to entrain your entire physical system, your cellular understanding with a new situation. Now, this is a rather simple situation to learn how to deal with the absence of gravity. But if we speak of the next life form on the new Earth, it is quite a complex transition, and we haven't done that before. So what is missing are those interfaces between our inner, deeper knowing and all those accesses that the higher self gives us, or the I Am presence holds for us, and that embodied personality, our little identification, our ego self, so to speak, that tries to find out and tries to manage and actually has to be moved out of the way if we want to be able to access these new dimensions within ourselves. So if that would work in terms of a regular evolution for humanity and for those who are awakening, let's put it this way, it would normally take 3 to 4, even 5 lifetimes to reach this status. If we don't sort of venture out into our own, taking this in our hands and really saying, I want to move forward, I want it now, I don't want to wait, I'm tired of these loops, then we need to understand that there is a new dedication, and there are many laws, if you will, that we have to adopt, that we have to learn how to live with. And even though it is not a mental game, it will take time for us to integrate that and to really bring all those aspects and all those building blocks together so that we can live in a balanced lifestyle and yet at the same time be embodied masters, enlightened embodied masters. So this is the offer for this course. It's not a pipe dream, and it's not just another new age program. In fact, it should be the end of programs. And that was actually what they also said in the beginning. We want those candidates to stop going from one practitioner to the next channel, to the next seminar and the workshop and another program and another. So please cut through the BS, cut through the belief systems, cut through this automatic loop in all of you, including myself, of trying to find answers, trying to find inspiration out there, and offer something substantial so that everyone can resonate with their own magic, their own beauty, their own wonder, which is sitting there, waiting to be embraced, waiting to be discovered. And from each session with clients, also the individual sessions, I can say there is so much richness which comes online, which it's almost, bringing life to something that was a desert before. And that's the interesting thing, because everything is in place, and yet it is not really awakened, because we are looking in the wrong corners, in the wrong arenas. And again, it's not somebody out there who has your answers, but it is the concerted action within this field, this safe and sacred space of the spheres of Genesis, which actually does the work. And it's an amazing gift in the sense that when we reach there, when we really take this choice, all we need to do is to allow and receive. And that, in and of itself already, is quite a tall order, because none of us has learned self-love in the true sense. But all of those who are going to venture into this 9 months of dedication to yourself, you will come out on the other end being self-love, embodied divine self-love. So they're saying that if we were just open to being carried in some sense onto these new platforms without every time interfering with our expectations, our control games, our holding on to our ideas, how this is supposed to be, we would really be extremely surprised of what is waiting for us on the other side. So very much like those space cadets, we do not know what we're in for until we enter this capsule, until we say, yes, I am ready for this journey. I'm going to go there. Before that, we're just imagining, we're dreaming, we're hoping, we're anticipating. And the question is here, how long do I want to anticipate? How long do I want to wait?